Nation, I'm Brandon Adams. Welcome into our Dog Nation postgame show presented by the UGA bookstore. I am inside Mercedes-Benz Stadium, where behind me a moment ago, the Georgia Bulldogs were presented with the Peach Bowl trophy. You hear Georgia on My Mind, the unmistakable song by Ray Charles playing on the Mercedes-Benz Stadium PA right now. Kirby Smart just addressed the fans and dignitaries in attendance. Certainly his happiness about the way this season concludes. It was not always easy for Georgia, especially in the first half, but the Dogs do come from behind here in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, getting a win against the 8th-ranked American Athletic Conference champion Cincinnati Bearcats in a game that was at times marred by penalties and at times probably less than a perfect affair as far as the Georgia Bulldogs are concerned, but no complaints whatsoever about the final score. Georgia getting a big win. The Georgia senior class ties the record for the most wins in program history for any senior class. Terrence, I was thoroughly entertained by what I saw today. What did you think of Georgia's win in the Peach Bowl?
It's a win. A win is a win, and I'll take it any day of the week. I mean, it's better than a loss. There was a lot of things that I was concerned about, especially the O-line play today. But overall, you had a lot of guys playing different positions today because we had a lot of opt-outs and injuries, but they came to play. I didn't think this was a game like Texas 2 years ago where we didn't want to play. We got to give Cincinnati credit as well. They were better than I thought they would be. I thought this was going to be a Hawaii-type situation a few years ago with Colt Brennan. But Cincinnati proved to us today that they can play football. But the good guys won at the end of the day.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Cincinnati, I think, validated itself as certainly a top 10 team worthy of the college football playoff. I would have said no before the game. I think I would still say no now. This is not a college football playoff level team, but one of the better teams the Dogs have played all season long. I don't think there's any question about that. I thought the Bearcats really got after Georgia defensively. I thought that Desmond Ridder proved himself to be, as we expected, a very dynamic quarterback with his legs. Looked no further than the touchdown that he scored on the final play of the first half, a play in which he kept the play alive for a very long time. And obviously there was the defensive breakdown, the coverage by Tyson Campbell. But in a typical situation, you're not asking guys to cover someone quite as long as Campbell was asked to cover there on that play. So I don't think anyone can look at this and say somehow Cincinnati wasn't a good team. Good team, therefore good win for Georgia. Terrence, the other thing I completely shoot down here is the notion of motivation being a factor one way or another. I think Cincinnati wanted to be here. I think Georgia wanted to be here. Frankly, I think this was a pretty good game. I saw some frustration from Georgia fans, certainly in the first half and, in sporadic portions of the second half there as well. But the truth is, this to me was a battle of top 10 teams in a bowl game with, I think, both programs feeling like they had a lot at stake. For Georgia, it was about accentuating what they might be in 2021. It was a Cincinnati reminder of what they were in 2020. But I thought the stakes felt relatively high in this game today. And the fact that Georgia does pull it out with a Jack Podlesny field goal there at the end of the game, I think it speaks pretty well for the Dogs. And frankly, it'll rank as a memorable moment for me for the 2020 season.
I think so. I think most Georgia fans just thought this was going to be a blowout. We were playing a AAC team, Cincinnati, that came in ranked 8th. Deservedly so. They deserved that ranking today. I think they proved to Dog Nation. I think they proved to the world. And some of the commentators had them to beat us today. So Cincinnati was not a bad football team. I don't think we played as well as I would like offensively, all that. But defensively, I'm going to give them credit. I mean, just look at that last play with Tyreek Stevens. Didn't give up on the play. And that's a big – if we don't make that play, game is over. So you give – defensively, I think they played superb. Offensively, I think we played okay. But at the end of the day, it's about winning.
Yeah, I think the point that you bring up there is a good one. And I promise you, we're about to take a bunch of comments, folks reacting to what happened with Georgia's win over Cincinnati today. But Georgia goes out and gets 7 sacks. You start looking back through the annals of recent Georgia football, you don't see that many. This is a Georgia team that was just 6th in the SEC last year with 31 on the season. But clearly an improved pass rush year over year. Today may be as good as anything the Dogs have done all season long with what Azeez Ojulari came out and did. Obviously some nice moments from Adam Anderson. This is an example of Georgia being better than it was a season ago. And if you don't have the upgrade in pass rush the way that Georgia showed today, frankly, I don't know that Georgia pulls that win out. If Ojulari doesn't force the fumble there late that led to the Zamir White touchdown, key points that kind of help fuel the Georgia comeback and kind of establish some of that momentum that Smart talked about a moment ago. If it's not for the Georgia pass rush, Terrence, I don't believe Georgia wins this game today.
I don't either. I think that fumble that Ojulari created, I think that's the biggest turning point of the game. I was saying to myself, we need something different than an offensive score, some special team or defensive turnover. We needed something to spark us, and that play there sparked us. And Ojulari had a great game today, and I can't wait for next season to see Adam Allen to really get a lot more playing time. That guy can really rush the passer. Him and Nolan Smith will get more. You got hopefully Aziz come back next year. So the pass rush is there. I mean, Jordan Davis, Wyatt has already said that he was coming back. So the front seven is there. Now we just got to put it together in the back end. I think we're going to lose some players there. So some new guys are going to come. But your best secondary play is your pass rush. So congratulations to those guys up front. Like you said, if we don't get that pass rush, we don't win this game today.
No, I think you're exactly right about that. We'll hear more from Terrence Edwards over the course of our show. Also, a lot of your comments coming up on both Facebook and YouTube. It's our Dog Nation postgame show presented by the UGA Bookstore. We've been proud to partner with the UGA Bookstore for the last 5 years around Dog Nation. And as our season here in 2020 comes to a close on the first day of 2021, we're still just as proud as ever of our relationship with the UGA Bookstore. Many of you love to go there for your holiday shopping as you head towards the new year. If you got some money in your stocking, you're looking how to spend that, or if you're taking back some of the stuff you did get from somewhere else, you want to get something nice from the UGA Bookstore, great time to do that. All the great brands, the Nike Coaches gear, the Vineyard Vines, the Tommy Bahama, Peter Millar, Johnny O, so many cool brands, all available for you there at the UGA Bookstore. Check them out online, UGAbookstore.com. That's how you can shop online, UGAbookstore.com, or stop by and see them. They're open 7 days a week right there in Athens, next to the Tate Student Center, across from Sanford Stadium. Very easy to stop by and see, and a fun place to visit. That entire first floor just covered with UGA apparel. We're going to be covered up here with UGA fans sharing their comments on what happened in the Peach Bowl win against Cincinnati a moment ago, and of course a lot more from Terrence Edwards on all of that too. Let me get, by the way, stats for JT Daniels here. 26 of 38, 392 yards, a touchdown and an interception there for Daniels on the game. So another big day for him from a passing total standpoint. But Terrence, I will say that of the 4 games that Daniels has started for Georgia, this to me was the game where he was the least sharp, probably due to the fact this was probably the best defense that he's played since being the Georgia starting quarterback. But there were some misfires on some deep balls. There were some balls that, maybe could have been thrown more accurately. Overall, you can't squabble with the numbers, and you won't. But clearly, I think Daniels kind of showed you today that there's still maybe some timing issues that he's working to develop with his Georgia receivers, having only gotten a chance to play with them for these 4 games.
I was shocked looking at the stats. I did not think that we had 404 passing yards as a team. Stetson came in and had a 12-yard completion. So I was shocked that we threw for that many yards. I thought JT was off today. There are some deep balls to Aaron Smith that if he just leads from, that's a walk-in touchdown. The one to Jermaine Burton at the end with the double move, if that's an accurate ball, that's a walk-in touchdown. So I don't think he was as sharp as he was the last 4 games. But at the end of the day, 398 yards passing is a solid day's work.
I want to go through here and get a bunch of comments. Angela Lee Dawkins checking in to say, I'm sorry, but we didn't deserve that win. I love my dogs. We got beat for 3.5 quarters. I'm going to disagree with you on that. It's a 60-minute football game. And listen, I don't think anybody expected Cincinnati to come in here and lay down and die. And the fact that Georgia had to fight for all 60 to get the win, Terrence, that doesn't cheapen it in my book. That makes it sweeter in my book.
Yeah, I totally disagree. We don't deserve this win. It's a 60-minute football game. So it doesn't matter. The game is not over until the scoreboard says 0. So I totally disagree. We made all plays. There's plays that we didn't make, but at the end of the day, it's about who scores the most points when the scoreboard has 4 double-digit zeros on it.
Chad Williams says that he'd like to see Todd Monken help JT Daniels work on his pocket awareness. Terrence, some of that for me comes, I know we've got other commenters who are saying a similar thing. The Georgia offensive line did have a rough game today. Some of that was the interior runs. Obviously, with Ben Cleveland not playing, Trey Hill has been out with an injury. You had makeshift all the way around. Justin Schaefer going from left guard to right guard. Jamari Salyer sliding inside of the left guard spot where he probably was expected to play when his Georgia career began. You had Xavier Trust at the left tackle spot. Warren McClendon was the only traditional starter at his normal role as the right tackle. And I'm not going to sugarcoat this. The Georgia offensive line today had its struggles. And when you look at some of the things related to pocket awareness for JT Daniels, unfortunately, some of that could have been related to the offensive line. Or when you look at a Georgia running game today, that with the exception of a Zamir White touchdown, for the most part, that group couldn't get going at all. Once again, I think you look at the Georgia offensive line that had a tough time gelling with the 5 who were in the game today.
I think so. I mean, that's the biggest group that has to be in sync. I don't think there was in sync today. A lot of moving parts from the offensive line today, but I think we have some talented young guys at tackle with Broderick Jones coming in, with Mims coming in with this class. So I think we have some really talented guys, and I think a guy that I know personally and Coach Jamari played guard today. I think that's his best natural position. So I would love to see him at guard next year, along with those athletic tackles that we have. The center position, I think, is too deep and is good, even if Trey Hill doesn't come back. So I think the offensive line is in good shape. Now we just got to get that cohesiveness throughout the spring to get the best 5 on the field.
I think you're bringing up a great point that, Salyer, I think, has done yeoman's work this year at the tackle position. It's amazing to think that he's played as well as he has. Some of the analytics sites have given him great grades for his work. He's played well there, but his natural position is more of an interior offensive lineman. In fact, you could see some evidence even during some of the warm-ups, working occasionally as maybe like a center or something along those lines. That's a position that we thought he might play when he first came to Georgia. That Terrence, in my mind, and him going back to his days at Pace Academy, but in my mind in 2021, if Salyer was comfortably able to slide inside because Georgia felt good about what it had at its tackle position, all of a sudden that could be the best version of the Georgia offensive line. We know without a doubt that Salyer represents one of Georgia's best 5, but if you did have the luxury of sliding him back inside, at that point, you're talking about a Georgia offensive line that's probably going to be performing at its best at that point.
Oh, I totally agree. I think, like I said, I've known Jamari, Coach Jamari, and he's a powerful young man. He has done a great job kicking out to left tackle at that, not right tackle. People don't understand the difference. The left tackle is the most important position, tied with center, in my opinion, on the offensive line, because that's the quarterback's blind side. So Jamari did a great job this year, moving over to a position that he really hasn't played before and moving to left tackle and not right tackle. But I think his best position would be a guard position.
Let me fly through a couple comments here. Cindy Rush Rutan says, that was absolutely awesome. Go Dogs. The safety at the end was the icing on the cake. Yeah, ironic for Georgia, the first points of the season, a safety coming way back in September in Fayetteville against Arkansas. The final points of the season, also a safety, as Georgia gets it on the last play of the game and brings down Desmond Ridder after the Jack Podlesny game-winning field goal. And we'll certainly talk more about Podlesny before we're done on today's show. Al Chandler says, year-end rankings will have us over those lousy, stinking Gators. And I like where Al's head is at on that. Josh Ferris says this was the best Cincinnati team in years, and they almost beat our second string, he says. So Josh feeling pretty good about how the SEC fared against the AAC here today. We'll get a few more Facebook comments. Dustin Cantrell also mentioning Latavius Brini. How impressed were you today, Terrence Edwards, with the work Latavius Brini has done? A lot of those guys in that 2017 class, Amir Speed included, who also got some chance to play today, they've been waiting for their turn in a deep Georgia secondary, but Brini in large numbers of snaps today. I thought Latavius had a very good game.
I was going to bring him up as one of my players of the game, a guy that we haven't seen very much outside of special teams. And he got thrown into the fire today, and I thought he played excellent. A couple of those bubble screens that they tried to throw, he just absolutely destroyed the blocker and made the tackle. I think that's going to catapult to him to being able to – he's going to be looked at that star position at 6'2", 210. He's a very physical player. So he has to get a strong look at that star position going into the 2021 season.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Kathy Aquavia Green checking in on Facebook to say she's very proud of this win. And Kathy, I'm happy to have you as a part of our program here today. Stephen Kane says, who won MVP of the game? I didn't see on the field who was given to. I know we'll give our Marco's Pizza moment of the game later on. Stay tuned for that. We'll honor our guy down on our show. As far as what happened down in the field a moment ago, I didn't quite see who got that done. But we'll certainly give credit to that once we find that out.
It should have been Ojulari. That's who it should have been. I don't know for sure, but that's, in my opinion, who should have been the MVP.
Well, that's like what Light Dog 1968 says on YouTube as well. And Terrence, think about this, that Ojulari apparently at one point in time may have been on the fence about playing in this game based on some of the reports that have been out there. Obviously, he potentially has a bright NFL future. To not only show up and play, but to really bring it, that's something that I just think is incredibly impressive on Ojulari's part. He was, as you said, a true difference maker in today's game. He's had a great career at Georgia to this point. Selfishly, I'd love for it to continue beyond 2020. We'll find out if that's indeed the case. But if this was his last game in a Georgia uniform, hardly a better way to go out than the way he played against Cincinnati today.
Correct. With all the opt-outs going on, he could have easily took that route, opt-out, prepare himself for the NFL draft, but he's a dog, so he wants to finish his career as a dog. If, in fact, this is his last game, this is one great game to go out on. But, I mean, he brought it today. I think he should have been MVP. If he didn't get it, he's MVP in my book. And without that play that he made, I don't think we win the game today.
A lot of defensive love to go around. Antonio Jones also here on YouTube mentioning the play of Nakobe Dean, a tackling machine for Georgia linebacker. Another one of these guys that has had a very solid sophomore season. And Dean is one of those guys that's on the field so much, seems to always be where the football is, collects tackles in bunches. Sometimes maybe he gets overlooked in comparison to some of the other players, Terrence, on this Georgia defense, but it's been a great season, I would say, for Dean. And Dean was also huge today. The highlight plays go to guys like Anderson and Ojulari, Jordan Davis maybe early in the game, but Nakobe Dean also a big part of the defensive story as far as how the Dogs got this win today as well.
Almost definitely. He was flying around today. Like I said, I give my hats off to the defense. After the first half, I think we settled down and they had one scoring drive, one play for that 79-yard run. But other than that, I think in the second half, the defense came to play. I mean, that's what happens when you play bowl game. Cincinnati's not an opponent that we're familiar with. So it takes a little longer to get familiar with a team that you're not regularly playing. And after halftime, I thought defensive coaches did a great job of figuring out a game plan to stop their dual threat quarterback. And besides that one play, defense played lights out in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, I like what Bubba says on YouTube, saying he thought Cincinnati played great today, but the Georgia defense stepped up really in the second half. And Terrence, you know what the storyline has kind of been here with Georgia not playing great defensively in its two losses against Florida and Alabama this season. There were some questions asked with the Georgia defense after all the hype and accolades that had come that unit's way before the season began. I think if you're a Georgia defender today who played in this football game, you can exit the 2020 season with your head held really high, because I do think Cincinnati validated itself as a good team, but Georgia was just on this day a little bit better. And if you don't get that heroic performance from the Georgia defense in the second half, essentially yielding nothing to Cincinnati, then the win doesn't occur. For a Georgia defense that was hungry for a good performance, I believe they certainly got one today.
I think so. Like I say, I keep harping on the defense won this game. So the defense was definitely the best component of Georgia's units today. 7 sacks, I think it was. I think they got after the quarterback, didn't allow him to get out and use his legs that he's done throughout their whole season this year. I think he had 12 rushing touchdowns. He did extend a few plays there in the first half, but I think we got pressure with a 5-man front, 4-man front with one blitzing linebacker all night. And once their starting tackle got ejected for targeting, Ojulari and crew went to work on their backup tackle. So kudos to the defense.
Cecilia Grant Gagnon says that those guys electing to play were the difference makers today, and they were. Georgia had probably about 60 players available to them today. We know some of the guys who weren't here. There were also a couple of surprise omissions from the game day roster as well. Mark Webb apparently dealing with an injury. At least that's what the press box chatter was. Trayvon Walker was not spotted at any point in time today. We'll await official word on what maybe Walker might have dealt with that caused him to miss the game. But as Cecilia said in the comment section, Terrence, the players who did come to play, the players who did choose to opt out, and obviously you expressed some feelings about the opt-out situation when you joined us on Dog Nation Daily on Thursday, essentially defending those who chose to do that, which I do understand your perspective on. But for the guys who did chose to play, they really played with their head held high today, I thought.
Most definitely. Like I say, with the option out, would I do it? No. I think, anytime you get opportunity to represent that G in whatever school that you play for, you could go and play. I mean, it's different strokes for different folks. I wouldn't do it, but I understand why they're doing it. I know Andrew Thomas personally, so I understood his reasoning for opting out. I would have played. That's just me. I don't see it as quitting. But those guys who played today, like I said earlier, this didn't feel like a Texas 2 years ago when
Yeah.
Georgia just didn't seem like they wanted to be there. I think they really thought they was the best team in the country, or one of the best teams in the country, and should have been in the college playoff. But today, I think they wanted to be there. It showed, and it felt like they wanted to play. Give Cincinnati credit for the way we look. Their defense did a great job on our offense today, especially in the run game. So I just give all the credit in the world that those guys got an opportunity to play another game. And that ones that did play, congratulations to you.
I'm going to give you some very impressive stats of the Georgia defense here in just a moment. Before that, let me remind you who we are, what we're doing. I'm live at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Terrence Edwards, the great former Georgia wide receiver, record setter for the Bulldogs at that position, joining us here from the comfort of his home, as he has this season of the Dog Nation postgame show presented by the UGA Bookstore. Big thanks to the bookstore for being a big partner of ours. We love our friends at the UGA Bookstore. Right there, Tate Student Center across from that, very close to Sanford Stadium. When you're in Athens, you can stop by and see the UGA Bookstore. You can shop online anytime you want, UGAbookstore.com. That entire first floor is filled with famous maker apparel, great-looking UGA gear, the Nike Coaches gear, the Tommy Bahama, the Vineyard Vines, the Peter Millar 47 brand. So many really cool UGA apparel makers putting some great stuff out. You can find all of it right there at the UGAbookstore.com. Really no better selection anywhere. They've been a proud partner of ours all season long here on the Dog Nation postgame show. So let me give you some of these numbers here, Terrence, just for a moment. So Georgia defense gives up just 107 yards in the second half. But, of course, a huge chunk of that, 79 yards, was on that touchdown run near the start of the third quarter, which was essentially just kind of a broken play by the Georgia defense. But other than that, Georgia really yields nothing at all in this second half. We've talked about the sacks. You finally give them 8 sacks on the final play of the game. Make sure you tally that up as 8 sacks. But there were also at least 5 tackles for loss today. Some of the Ritter runs, that against another quarterback might go as a sack, for him go as a tackle for loss because he's turning himself into a runner. The havoc plays, Georgia being active in the backfield, we saw as much of that from the Dogs as I think we have in any game under Kirby Smart.
I think so. The defensive line, and give Coach Scott some credit, man. He's a great developer of talent. There's a lot I could say about the guy. He's a really good guy, but he's a really, really good coach. And you see the way the guys play, especially those interior guys with Jordan Davis and Wyatt and Jalen Carter. Those guys really play hard for 4 quarters. So defensively, they played a great game second half. Besides that long run, I don't know how many first downs they got, but it's very few. One drive, I know they got negative 15 yards. So that lets you know the defense was really coming. They put it in their hearts to go out and let's finish this game. It's going to be on us. Offense was struggling a little bit and give Cincinnati credit for why they were struggling. But defense is the true MVP of this game today.
James Leonard Brown in our Facebook comment section saying that he hopes that Jordan Davis will come back next year. Terrence, I'm ultimately not sure what Davis's thought process is or how soon we might find something out from him. But I will say that, selfishly speaking as a fan, I do view Davis as one of Georgia's most irreplaceable players. I think that he's obviously going to be pretty attractive to draft scouts, and only Davis himself can know how much he can move up boards if he were to come back to Georgia a following year. But I have no doubt NFL teams will like him. And when I look at the Georgia roster, what I expect this team to have in 2021, there unfortunately is really no heir apparent for Jordan Davis. I thought Davis had a good game again today. And putting someone else in the shoes that number 99 has filled, whenever that decision eventually has to be made, whether it be for the 2021 or 2022 seasons, it is not going to be an easy thing to do.
Correct. I think there's 2 players on this defense and on this team that's going to be hard to replace, and that's Richard LeCounte for his leadership and what he's brought to this team for 4 years, and Jordan Davis having that big bull in the middle of this 3-4 defense and playing 2 gaps. And I mean, he's been tremendous. I mean, he's one of those guys that wasn't a highly recruited guy coming out, but again, I give Coach Scott kudos for developing that kid from day one. I remember when I talked to him and I saw him, he told me, Terrence, this guy could be special if he puts the work in, if he put in his mind that he wants to be good, he could be dominant. And it came true. So we have to go and find another gap stuffer like Jordan Davis if he decides to leave.
Chris Slim White in our Facebook comment section saying the best moment of the game for him, And I don't know if you saw this, Terrence, on TV. At the end of the game, I actually got a video of this. Kirby Smart running from the Gatorade bath. The Georgia players go to one side and do some celebrating. Then the guys get there. In Georgia's case, our house stylist to say more Powerade than Gatorade. We don't do anything Gator-wise around Dog Nation. But the Powerade, chasing Smart with that, he kind of ran away from it. It was a great scene. It's one of the things I like, Terrence, about Kirby is that after these games, big wins, you do see him just very comfortable in his own skin, very natural. He enjoys celebrating. This is not some, coach that exists in an ivory tower somewhere who can't act like a real guy. Kirby's a dude like anybody else is, and he's as happy as anybody after a big win. And I agree with our commenter, Chris, who said it's fun to watch him celebrate and the players celebrate with him. You certainly saw some of that after the game today.
Oh, I definitely got an opportunity to see him getting chased by the guys with Powerade, the bath that, and they did actually get him a little bit. But you would love to see a coach after a big win go and celebrate with the guys. Man, it's a big win. It's hard to win football games, and we know the preparation that the coaches put into it. We know the preparation that the players put into it. So doesn't matter if you're playing Cincinnati or an SEC opponent. Once you win, you should be elated. You should have the opportunity to celebrate with your guys. Doesn't matter if it's a bowl game or a cupcake that you schedule. A win is a win. And I love Kirby celebrating with his guys because I see the intensity that he has during practice during the week. And it's enlightening to see him kind of let his hair down a little bit after a big win.
Philip Jordan Wells in our Facebook comment section also saying that Azeez Ojulari could have very well played his way into the top 10 of the draft with his performance today. Terrence, I think that Ojulari is probably already pretty high on some of the draft boards as it is, but how much do you think a guy like that can improve draft positioning by going out and playing well in a game that a lot of college football fans around America were watching? You presume a lot of NFL executives may have been tuned into as well, especially just given, the talent level on the other side for Cincinnati, a top 10 ranked team. Do you think Ojulari earned himself a few dollars today with his performance?
I don't put a lot of stock like fans of one game earning guys a ton of money. But what I can say is they're going to go back and look at his film even closer. Like, did we miss this guy? Like, he jumped off the screen. So they're going to go and put extra attention to his evaluations right now. So I think will be a first-round pick. He has first-round talent. He played very well today. And this just going to cause the scouts to go back and really evaluate, is this guy now could go to be a top 10 player instead of just a first round pick. But with 3 sacks today, a caused fumble. I mean, he actually, not opting out, helped himself. I can really say helped himself today.
Well, speaking of forcing fumbles and kind of an interesting factor in today's game, how about the performance by George Pickens for both kind of the good, mostly the good, and occasionally the bad? Let's go through this for a minute. He has a wild diving catch, which was as athletic as I've ever seen in the first half. Scores a touchdown shortly after that. Then after interception, forces a fumble, had a couple of penalties called against him today for various reasons. And then at the end of the game, does a literal front flip in the air after trying to leap over a player. Terrence, for a lot of reasons, he's about as entertaining a football player as I've ever seen at Georgia. And as I said before, it's not always for the perfect reasons. George kind of gets involved in some extracurricular stuff from time to time, but I love his energy. I love the way that he plays the game. And today was another example of the fact that you really can't ever take your eyes off of him because you never quite know what he's going to do. True highlight plays, never yielding when it comes to the physical part of the game. Pickens is a fascinating player. He's one of my favorites in recent Georgia memory, and I just love the way that he approached today's game. His energy was boundless, and you talk about being a reliable target for JT Daniels today. Pickens was really that frequently today.
Yes, he was. I mean, he started the game more slow. We have never seen him just drop a wide open pass like that, and that goes from he trusts his hands so much that he was trying to get the first down before he even caught the football today. But, George is George. George is going to go out there. He's going to entertain you, good or bad. But he plays one way, and that's lights out. I mean, you can respect that from a guy that loves football. That tells you he loves the game. Some of those penalties that he's got, he's trying to block for his teammates. And unfortunately, he got called for holding. But I'll take that penalty. Why? Because he's actually trying to block to do his job. So I'll take that penalty as a coach. Just now, we'll just teach technique-wise. Once he's releasing, just release him. We'll take the game.
Yeah.
But I'll take those penalties any day of the week, and I'll take a player like George on my team 10 times out of 10.
If I could retweet that 10,000 times, I would. I agree with everything that you just said there. How about the numbers for Pickens today? 7 catches, 135 yards, and a touchdown. Terrence, I don't know how big of a baseball fan you are, but do you remember back when Reggie Jackson, the former slugger, was called Mr. October for the work that he did in October?
Mr. Bowl game.
Yeah, we made Mr. January maybe for George Pickens. After the Baylor game last year, 135 yards and a touchdown this year, maybe Pickens is Mr. January now for the Dogs. I kind of like the idea of that. Mr. Bowl game, I like that.
Almost definitely. I can't remember another Bulldog. I have to go look at the stats that definitely going to have 200-yard receiving games in the bowl games, and he had two consecutive 100-yard games in a bowl game, and we needed every catch, every yard that he produced today. We just need that week in, week out now. Just talking to some friends earlier, I cannot wait to see what we could do with a whole spring up on our belt. And these guys are comfortable in Todd Monken's system and really understands what he's trying to do offensively. I think we could be one of the better offenses in the country next year.
Matt Rukavina on Facebook pointing out a really good point. I'm not sure how many people are really aware of this, but on the final play of the game today, the sack and safety against Ritter that ultimately sealed the deal for Georgia, Richard LeCounte was able to get in the game and be part of that play after being the lone captain for the coin flip to begin the game and a guy who had tried so hard to get back and play. And we said on the show this week that his injuries were going to be difficult to overcome, but he was spotted on the field for that last play. It's a very classy thing for George to give him a chance to do that, a perfect time to insert him into the game. And Terrence, I know you as much as anybody understands what LeCounte has meant for Georgia. This is one of the real pivotal figures in not just the Smart era, but recent Georgia history, even beyond that. He will be remembered finally for years and years to come. And I'm glad the last moment of his Georgia career ended with him on the field, because that's certainly where he deserves to be.
Correct. I did see that he went out on the field, and I thought it was a great gesture. I actually thought, the quarterback would just throw it up and he'll get an interception to see his Georgia career off with the interception. But he's definitely a damn good dog. He is one of those guys that kept this class together. He's one of the guys that in 2017 put this class together. He's going to leave as one of the best Bulldogs to ever play this position. And I can't wait to see him play on Sundays.
So I'm not going to try to put you in the spot here too much, but Clarence Dawson brings a pretty good point. So Georgia targets tight ends 3 times on the first drive of this game today. Darnell Washington had a beautiful move. You know about athleticism. That guy, big as he is, he's got athleticism to spare. What an unbelievable future Darnell would seem to have in a Georgia uniform. You do know a Rick Gilbert well, Terrence, and I'm not going to ask you to violate any confidences, private conversations you may have had from him, but I think people do want to know from you. Do you think someone like a Rick noticed the ways in which Darnell and John Fitzpatrick were targeted today? Georgia seemingly tried to get the tight ends involved. If I'm Gilbert, my guess is that he's probably paying attention to that.
Most definitely. If you are considering transfer, and if you're considering Georgia's one of the schools that you'll want to transfer to, why not pay attention to how many targets the tight ends are getting? In the last 2 games, I think the tight ends have got several targets. And today, I think Darnell Washington caught 2 or 3, and Fitzpatrick probably caught 2 or 3. Man, and that would be a scary combination with Eric and Darnell in your tight end group. Like I say, that I don't have any inside information myself, but he would add a tremendous talent to that room if that's what he decides.
Fair enough on that. Aisha Murphy saying that excited we won the game because I don't want to hear these comments about how Cincinnati beat a top 5 Power 5 team from the SEC. And I think Aisha's right about this, Terrence, that the love in the game, and I'm not saying this in kind of a complaining way, but there was clearly a lot of touting for Cincinnati on the part of a lot of folks in the national media who genuinely, I believe, thought that Cincinnati should be in the college football playoff. Terrence, you and I talked about that this week on our show and frequently in the past, that I never bought into the idea that somehow Big Bad Georgia was turning up its nose in Cincinnati and didn't think the Bearcats belonged in the game. Georgia had no opportunity to think that way, because every time they turned around, they were being told how good Cincinnati was. And at a certain point in time, if you're a Georgia player, you probably just start believing that. Maybe you're motivated by it. So I think Aisha's right that Georgia, in a weird way, as the big Power 5 team, the more nationally known brand, actually got to play the role of spoiler today against Cincinnati. And I'm guessing there are a few fans that probably feel the way that Aisha did, that it's kind of fun to go out there and play the role of spoiler.
Oh, I totally agree. I think the narrative would have been that if they'd have won this game, or we cannot, why are we being so disrespected? The Group 5 can't get into the college football playoff, and we just beat Georgia. So we should be in there. I don't think Georgia played their best today and come out with a win. I think Cincinnati had a great season this year. I really do. But do I think that they could compete with the likes of the top tier teams? I don't. But I would love to see the college football playoff expanded to 8 teams and they get their shot. And you never know what will happen on a Saturday, any given Saturday. A Group 5 have beat Bama in the past, have beat Oklahoma in the past. So they have beat Power 5 teams in these New Year Day bowl games. But I would love to see them get an opportunity to play in the college football playoff with an expanded field.
Peter Jeffrey Wilson saying next up for Georgia is Clemson. Boy, I'm already excited about the season opener for the 2021 season in Charlotte against Clemson. Regardless of what Clemson's result is in the college football playoff, that game certainly sets up to be a good one, and we're going to have plenty of time to talk about that, and you better believe we'll be talking about it so much, getting ready for the Dogs and the start of the 2021 season, and who knows? I mean, listen, it's been such a weird time, and obviously, so many people have dealt with so many challenges. You'd love the idea of the vaccine continuing to do its thing and progress, and the health of our country and our world to be on better footing. Terrence, how much fun would it be to think about, not what we had today, which was the Peach Bowl doing the best it could to get some fans in the stadium, but there in Charlotte, the idea of almost a full stadium, thousands and thousands of Georgia fans being there. Boy, that's the kind of thing that gets you excited to think about, that maybe we could take a big step forward from a health standpoint here in 2021, maybe see more fans in the stands for those games once they kick off in 2021, including the Dogs and Clemson. That's a real hopeful thing that I have certainly on my mind.
Me too as well. I just think hopefully we could get back to some type of normalcy for the next football season, just for the world. I mean, we just need to get back to our normal activity, daily activities, and that game would be. I don't get why we don't play Clemson more. I mean, we played them my senior year in 2002 and we beat them, but that game against those guys, with being less than an hour away from Athens, would be a fun matchup. Dabo has created a juggernaut at Clemson. I think it would be a fun matchup to match up against the Clemson Tigers at least every other year. Because the two schools are too close in proximity not to.
Let me do this here in our Dog Nation post-game show. Let's go ahead and honor Jack Podlesny as our Marco's Pizza moment of the game, the 53-yard field goal that he kicked, almost a walk-off. There were a couple of seconds left on the clock, but almost a walk-off field goal for Pod. Ties the Peach Bowl record for longest field goal in the history of this bowl game. And Podlesny also added some other points today for Georgia, true with his leg. Terrence, as a former player, and you had some good ones during your time at Georgia, Billy Bennett comes to mind here. What does it do for a team when you know that getting into field goal range, and obviously Georgia was looking for a touchdown, there was the weirdness of maybe the decision by Kirby Smart not to go for it on fourth down prior to that at his own 43, maybe almost coming back to bite Georgia, but then Podlesny bails everybody out with the field goal. As a player, when your kicker does you right like that, how does that feel?
I feel great. I mean, I can remember in 2002 when we went down to play Alabama and Billy Bennett kind of hit the game winner down there. And Thomas Davis ended up, with the game-winning interception on the first play of their our defensive play. So it feels good when you put yourself in position. You work on this all the time, situational. You got a minute with no timeouts. You got to get in field goal range. And I think Georgia did a great job of putting themselves in position to give their kicker an opportunity to kick a 53-yard field goal. So, I mean, that's what the kicker, that's what they dream about. I dream about catching a game-winning touchdown. The kicker dreams about kicking a 53-yard field goal in the Peach Bowl to win the game. So, kudos to that guy. I mean, that is nerves. That is nerves. That it's win or lose right here on your kick, and the operation from the snap to the hold to the kick was perfect.
So congratulations to Jack Lesney, 53-yard field goal. That's our Marco's Pizza moment of the game. Don't forget Marco's Pizza, getting settled in to watch some action tonight, a lot of college football, or you're just heading towards the weekend with maybe some of the other stuff that's going to be going on as well tomorrow, Sunday, everything else. Big weekend of football. Marco's Pizza is a great choice, including this deal right now. How about a large specialty and a large two-topping pizza? That's $23.99. Incredible savings from Marco's Pizza. It's baked in a 450-degree oven, then delivered to you contactless and touchless after that. That's why I love talking about Marco's Pizza right here in our program. So check it out at marcos.com or on the Marco's app, and you'll find out why it is America's most beloved pizza, real authentic pizza made the Italian way. Our friends at Marco's Pizza. Congratulations to, we're calling him Hot Pod here. Somebody called him Air Pod a little earlier. He is our Marco's Pizza moment of the game. By the way, Alabama already up 13-0 here in the first quarter against Notre Dame. Terrence, no surprise for me on that. I just don't see any way in which the Fighting Irish can keep it close against Alabama. It may be, Terrence, that no one is capable of keeping it close with Alabama right now, but certainly Notre Dame is not.
But yeah, you just missed this run by Najee Harris.
Really?
It was ridiculous. He actually hurled a guy out and continued to run. It's amazing play. It's going to be all of this. If he would have won the Heisman, that was his Heisman moment run. It was crazy. But I don't know I would love to see Clemson and Alabama in the college football playoff. I think those two are the two best teams, and I think it will be a 50-52 game because both offenses can move the ball up and down the field.
Well, when you are an Alabama and you've got the high-powered passing attack, but you've also got Najee Harris too, who, as you said, capable of doing the highlight type runs. By the way, it's now 14-0 after the made PAT, but also just generating big offense all season long. He's going to be a top 5 Heisman finalist, or he is a top 5 Heisman finalist in the voting ranks there. It's kind of the difference between Alabama and Florida. Florida didn't have that running component. They had a pretty successful passing game all season long, but they did not have the big running component. And, I mean, we saw this ourselves in October when Georgia went there, and that's back when Jalen Waddle was still healthy. You're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, because you're trying to match up against these Alabama wide receivers. Then Najee gets off. You try to stack in the line and kind of try to stop him. Mac Jones is capable of throwing over you. You know, Alabama can play both left and right-handed so well that I truly don't know what you do to stop them. Ohio State doesn't really have that running game minus Justin Fields right now. And, you know, Clemson maybe does, but it hasn't been a great year necessarily for Travis Etienne. Alabama just does both so well, throwing it and running it. It's one of the things I believe, maybe it's the thing that makes them so hard to beat.
Oh, most definitely. I think going into a game plan defensively, you have to try to stop something. What are we going to do? Are we going to commit that eighth guy into the box to try to stop the run, or we're going to stay too high shell and try to stop the pass? So they bring a component that I think no one else in college football brings right now. So you're going to have to – you can't try to do both. Once you try to do both, then you're not stopping either. So you got to commit to one or the other, stopping Najee or stopping the passing game. And right now, I'm a wide receiver. I'm trying to stop Devontae Smith, who already has scored already the first touchdown. I'm trying to stop him, and we're just going to try to stop Najee with the front seven and try to contain that passing game. But it's hard to do, man. It's hard to do against Alabama right now.
Chris Jowers Outdoors on YouTube mentioning Payne Walker, the snapper, on those field goals, including the game winner for Bud Lesney, and that's a really good point. Got to have that good snap to be able to get that done. So good job by Payne on that. Paul also mentioning a guy that's really earned a lot of praise in our comment section tonight. That's Latavius Brini. You love that. Doug Colton says secondary should be good. He's obviously referencing 2021. And, boy, Terrence, you think about all the changeover. Guys we've just gotten very used to seeing. Didn't see Eric Stokes tonight. Well, you've seen a lot of him over the years. He'll have to be replaced next season. Richard LeCounte, who only played the final snap of the game tonight, that's another guy for 2021 that'll have to be replaced. It's going to be unusual. Now, Georgia has been very good at recycling through new names in that defensive secondary, but a lot of mainstays who've earned a lot of snaps for Georgia just not going to be there in 2021. And the job of regenerating that talent is going to be a significant one. I will point out that Keely Ringo was in uniform today for Georgia, so a little bit of a nod to the work that he's been doing in injury recovery. Got to dress out for the game today, and he'll be a part of this discussion heading into next year. But there'll be a lot of new faces in that secondary for Georgia in 2021, Terrence.
So my prediction next year, a guy that I love coming out of high school that a lot of people haven't talked about, but I love this guy, is Jalen Kimber. If you watch this film last year coming out of high school, a long, very athletic, rangy, skinny DB. And I think this year is done him well, putting on some weight, getting strength. But I think he's a natural DB. I think he's going to be one of the guys that is going to help us next year, along with who is it? That's in the secondary. Ringo.
Yeah.
I think he is a guy that I would like to see play starting next year. I would love to see Stevens go back to safety with Singh. So that would be the secondary that I would love to see next year with hopefully Tyson Campbell comes back with Ringo at star, Stevens at safety, along with Singh. I think that would be a fast, very fast physical secondary.
Jay Latte asking about Kirby doing a post-game interview. There will be a post-game press conference. You will see that on the Dog Nation YouTube page. So check back in later on this evening. We're not allowed to stream that live, but we'll post that once it is available, the Kirby Smart press conference, and we're going to find out some of the stuff that he has to say there. Frank Patterson says, do you see Kimber as more of a safety or a cornerback, Terrence?
Corner. He corner. Definitely a corner.
Good to hear. Michael Carvel, our producer, says that Kirby's press conference has taken place. So that will be on the Dog Nation YouTube page a little bit later on. Maybe not quite, too volatile of a quote coming out of that. Obviously, everybody in a good mood after Georgia's win. Although, Terrence, it is interesting how calm the conversation is now compared to what it would have been. If you follow Twitter and you just listen to a lot of Georgia fans, really a lot of media types were in the press box, the decision by Smart not to go for it, down a couple of points at his own 43-yard line, really calling a timeout, then choosing to punt. If Podlesny doesn't save Georgia's bacon with the made field goal, and if Georgia doesn't march down and get him in a position to make that field goal, I'm guessing that post-game press conference for Kirby would have probably gone quite different.
Most definitely. My tone and attitude changed with a swift kick as well. I mean, it was totally been different coming here, losing to Cincinnati. But a win is a win. I think there's a lot of we could go back and forth in hindsight, what if, what shouldn't. But in the snap of a moment, you have to make decisions that you think best gives your team opportunity to win. And even the fourth down, we went for it on fourth down with the incompletion. On the 4th and 1 with the incompletion where we inside the 20, we could have kicked the field goal. So he actually went for it a time or two today. We just didn't make the plays.
Yeah, that's exactly right. By the way, Kent on YouTube, and Michael Carvel, I don't know if you can help us out with this or not. Was anything addressed about the status of Trayvon Walker in the post-game press conference with Kirby Smart? Michael, if you see anything on that, send that over to me. It's hard for me to follow Twitter while also doing the show, so I really haven't seen that too much yet. But Michael, if you see anything on the status of Walker, go ahead and send that over to me, and I'll make sure I give that out to everybody here on the show, because that is a pretty pivotal question facing UGA. I'm not going to speculate about what it was. So according to our producer, Michael Carvel, Kobe Dean said that Trayvon wasn't able to come because of a COVID situation. We do know that Georgia had a little more of an outbreak here towards the end of the year than at really any point in time during the year. And I don't know, Terrence, maybe my memory is just bad, but I can't think of too many, guys like this that actually missed a game for Georgia, if any, because of the coronavirus. So Trayvon, a very important part of the Georgia defensive line, obviously thoughts and prayers to him that he gets to feeling better soon. But it's interesting to hear in the final game of the season, this is as big a COVID-related story, I guess, that Georgia's had, if it is indeed true what Dean apparently said, that Trayvon didn't play because of that. It took Georgia until its 11th game to really feel the effects of that.
I think so. I think Georgia have done a awesome job of trying to shield and protect their players and the protocol that SEC put forth. So give kudos to Georgia and Coach Kirby and his staff for trying to keep the players as safe as possible. Like I said, yeah, I did hear about an outbreak, and my prayers go to Trayvon Walker, and hopefully he's feeling better. And like you say, we haven't been hit like other programs, and you got to give praise to Ron Corson and that crew.
Silent Chaos on YouTube wanted to ask you about Nyland Green. Have you seen Nyland Green, the defensive back that Georgia signed out of Covington? Have you seen him?
I haven't seen him in person, but I've seen his tape, and he's a very athletic young man, long, 6'1", 6'2", about 180 pounds right now, but he can flat out fly. He's going to be another guy that's I think he's an early enrollee, so he will be able to go through the spring and get in the weight program and also get in the nutrition program. But he's a guy that is going to help because he's suture and all talented.
One of your former teammates, David Pollock, weighing in on Twitter to say, dang right about Azeez Ojulari. Here's an idea for all out there. Your bowl performance can make you a lot of money. It did for Azeez Ojulari today. You said a moment ago, Terrence, you're not quite so sure that a bowl game is necessarily doing all of that, but it is interesting to hear Pollock weigh in on that topic.
I think so. I don't think it, I could go from a bottom first round to a top. But what I do know is that now scouts are going to go back and look at you closely. Like, this guy jumped off the page today. Let me go back and look at him. And he may move up a few spots ahead of some other guys. But, in a sense, I guess you can't say he made him some money. But just to say he went from a bottom to a top, I just don't agree with that.
Alabama fan Saquad Barkley checking in on YouTube saying, roll tide, BA. Make sure y'all watch Bama. Listen, Saquad, right now I ain't got no choice. They're on TV just blowing everybody out every single week. At some point in time, I'd like to tune in one of these games and not see so much Alabama. But as it stands right now, Terrence, I'm not quite so sure that's going to happen anytime soon.
I don't think so either. I think Alabama is the best team in the country right now. Clemson is right behind them, so I would love to see that matchup in the championship game.
Jeff Easling also brings up Azeez Ojulari again in the comment section. Terrence, listen, Azeez is obviously a very highly rated recruit, but it is interesting to say he was not a 5-star. And it just kind of goes to show you, listen, more times than not, the 5 stars are going to be really good and the 4 stars are going to be also really good themselves. But it goes to show you sometimes these recruiting services, they don't always get it right. And listen, don't get me wrong, Ojulari wasn't misevaluated because he was a very highly rated recruit, but there are other recruits, even at the same position, who were more highly rated than Azeez Ojulari was, which would be hard-pressed to find anyone who has played better than Ojulari in a Georgia uniform. And a lot of that, at least my understanding is, Ojulari got very serious about his weight. I'm talking about, adding the pounds that he needed to be kind of an every-down type player while he was absent, in 2018. Obviously, you saw some of him there at the end of the 2018 season, showed a lot of muscle mass when he came back, ready to go for 2019. This is a guy, and, I've only seen this from kind of afar, but I have noticed it. Terrence, this is a guy who, while at Georgia, has put in the work. He's transformed his body. He's, seemingly, grown as a leader, and his, football IQ would have seemed to have grown as well. This is a guy who's serious about his craft, and it's obviously paying off for him.
Right. I mean, we all know those recruiting services. It's not exact science. I mean, it's not hard to go out and pick a guy who's the best player in the class. But let's just look at the 2 cornerbacks that we had this year. Tyson Campbell is rated a 5-star coming out. Eric Schultz barely even sniffed a 3-star. Now look who's probably going to get drafted higher who didn't play today. So it's not exact science. It's about the guys who go in and put in the work. It's about development of the players at the end of the day. And Ojulari wouldn't put in the work. I think he tore his ACL his senior year as well. So coming in, he worked on his body, worked on his knee. And another person in his own household is his little brother, BJ. I mean, he's over at LSU right now, ripping it up. And I wish we would sign him. I think that's a miss that from the coaching staff, his BJ, Ojulari's little brother, BJ.
Well, listen, I'm not an official member of the Georgia program, so I can go ahead and say this. Listen, there's been a lot of rumblings and grumblings around LSU. If BJ Ojulari is feeling froggy, go ahead and holler at us. Go ahead and text us if you're feeling like you want to make a move, because I'm sure we can make some room on the Georgia roster for BJ Ojulari. I like that young man as a player too. Now, my understanding is I don't believe Ojulari's planning on transferring from LSU, but listen, I've kind of gotten used to seeing Ojulari in the defense for Georgia in that front 7. So if there was an opportunity, I'm not saying I'd turn it down. I guess that's all that I'm saying there. Jack Podlesny told reporters a moment ago that this was the first game-winning field goal that he's ever kicked at any time in his football life. And, Terrence, after Rodrigo Blankenship had been Georgia's kicker for it seems like 100 years prior to this, the transition to a new kicker, I think most have expected that to be pretty difficult. And I don't know that Podlesny was necessarily, in fact, I think for a lot of people, he was not the guy that you thought was necessarily going to win the job. And yet he did. And based on the kick that he kicks today, it seems like Georgia is now in great shape at that position going into next season. That's really a bullet dodge. It's not always easy to replace your kicker. For Alabama, for instance, as good as they are at everything, sometimes finding a kicker has not been the easiest thing to do. But fresh off having a Groza Award winner in Blankenship last year, Georgia has now found his replacement in Pod Lesney. It's a great job by Georgia, and a great special teams year for Scott Cochran, maybe accentuated by the game-winning field goal there today.
I think so. Like you say, it's very hard to find that next guy in a position. We could go and find a kicker with the confidence to go and nail a 53-yard field goal with essentially 7 seconds left on the game clock and nails it. I mean, that was straight down the middle to have the guts to do that. Kudos to the Georgia coaching staff to find another guy that they thought could replace Hot Rod. And it's not always exact science, like we say, but we have found another kicker that we can rely on for the next few years.
Let me give you a couple things on JT here. We're going to get ready to wrap up after that. Courtney Lee says he needs to work on the long ball a bit. Raymond Clackhorn saying he thought JT was a little bit off. Terrence, this to me was a reminder that college football is not easy, right? And I think that JT Daniels is an amazing talent, but this is a guy who missed his senior year of high school, played only in one game in 2019. This is a guy that over the course of the last, however many years you want to look back on, has not played a ton of football. And he's only played now 4 games as the Georgia starter. He threw for a huge yardage total today, and obviously you feel great about that. But he was probably not as accurate today against a good defense as he had been against some of the lesser defenses that Georgia played near the end of the regular season. It doesn't change my overall outlook for Daniels. I think he's firmly entrenched as Georgia's starter, and I expect a really big year from him in 2021. But it goes to show you there's no substitute for true experience. In Daniels' case, that means experience in a Georgia uniform, gaining timing and chemistry with the receivers that he's going to be throwing to. Today was another step in that direction. It wasn't always pretty, but I think that Daniels will be better in the long run for the experience he got today against a defense that was capable of getting after him with the pass rush. And, by the way, missing their top 2 defensive backs. Cincinnati was also a little shorthanded themselves today, but still, capable of showing some things for Daniels that probably really challenged him today.
I think so. I think I didn't realize till I looked at stats that we threw for 400 yards as a team today. That amazed me, but I just think if he was on his A game today and hit a couple of those receiving strides and some of those balls that was inaccurate, it was accurate. We could have threw for 500 yards today, but we didn't. I don't think he, like the commentary said, I don't think he played his best game today. Give credit to Cincinnati as well of putting pressure. Offensive line today didn't have their best stuff today. So as a former quarterback, I understand once you feel that pressure, your timing is off. You start feeling the rush a little bit more. Balls will become inaccurate. So at the end of the day, it's about wins or losses. And he, on that last drive, that 2-minute drive, he put his team on his back, check the ball down to your playmakers, and let's move the chains and put your team in position to hit a 53 game-winning field goal.
Casey Lott's trying to get me to drill Terrence again on a Rick Gilbert. I've already done that once, Casey. I can't do that. I can't do that to Terrence again. I've already done it to him once. How about Arian Smith today, by the way? That's another one of those guys that, he has the big deep ball at one point in time, came close to, striking on another one. It just goes to show you, Terrence, you can't coach that speed. You've either got it or you don't. And, Georgia's got a lot of dynamic playmakers. Not all of them are blazing speedsters, but Arian Smith sure is.
I think so. That's why I tweeted out right before signing day that I would love to have the Horn kid down from South Florida in this recruiting class. Because one thing you can't do is teach that downfield speed. And you pair him with Arian Smith, man, you would definitely have 2 guys that could take the top off. And now you could throw these balls underneath to your George Pickens and your Blaylocks and your Jermaine Burtons and your tight ends. That's one thing I think Bama have done a great job. Again, those guys who can really stretch the field. That scares defenses, and Arian Smith is going to scare defenses from next season for the next few years.
Silent Chaos brings up a pretty good point. We're just kind of riffing now because we're getting ready to go. But you see the moment in the game, I think it's in the first half that Chaos is referencing here, where on a pass rush against Desmond Ridder, Ridder is really nimble. He moves well. But Jordan Davis was running with him step for step. That's a huge guy, Terrence. But he is athletic. I think he's in great shape for the size that he has. And I love the way that Davis today really kind of ran with Desmond Ridder at one point in time in particular. I think I'm remembering the same play that Silent Chaos is, although I can't remember exactly what the point was in the game in which it happened. But I remember just kind of thinking to myself, wow, athleticism from Davis there. Pretty impressive to see.
if it the same play I'm thinking about, it was late in the fourth quarter,
Okay, maybe it
where
was. Maybe it
yeah, it's
was.
late in the fourth quarter, and then Jordan Davis beat the center and chased the guy down and actually got in the play. And one thing I like we know about Jordan, he came in 380 pounds, and Georgia strength and conditioning staff along with Coach Scott and the nutritionist team has really got him into great shape. We know we rotate a lot of guys, so he give it his all on the 1 or 2 plays that he's going to play in. And when you got guys that's going to play hard for 2 or 3 plays in a row, and then the next group come in, you're going to be fresh. You're going to make plays. And Jordan Davis, if I hope he comes back for my own selfish reason, because he will be the anchor of that defense next year.
D-Mart42 comparing Arian Smith to Jalen Waddle. Do you think, now obviously it's hard to be as good as Waddle has been, but could you see Georgia using Smith in a similar way in the way in which Waddle has been used by Alabama, Terrence?
Almost definitely. He's definitely a guy that you got to use his God-given talent is that being able to run and stretch the defense. Once you put fear in the defense vertically, now the running game opens up, the underneath passing game opens up, and now you just be able to throw deep balls. You can't play man coverage or keep a guy pressed on him because he's just going to outrun everybody, and that scares you with Waddle. He just brings a different dynamic to the team, and Aaron Smith they actually bring that dynamic to the Georgia offense.
Brandon Russell says Dog wins the Peach Bowl. Pierce County wins the state championship. This, he says, has been a great week. Did I hear this correctly? Is Stetson Bennett's brother the quarterback for Pierce County? Did I hear that correctly?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Pierce County quarterback was a black kid.
Oh, okay.
Unless he's adopted.
I'm guessing they're not brothers. Then I'm not a genius, but I'm guessing that may mean that. But thank you for clearing that up. I don't know where I got that from. Then. All right, let's see whatever else is going on here. Texas Dog enjoying hearing from Stetson Bennett. I certainly am glad. I'm sorry, not Stetson Bennett. He's enjoying hearing from Terrence Edwards is what I meant to say. I'm certainly glad about that. A couple more comments. We're getting ready to go here. Anything else on Facebook we want to hit before we're done? I thought that Zamir White gave Georgia some hard yards today. Running yards were hard to come by for Georgia all the way around, Terrence. But I thought Zamir really played with some toughness.
I think so. And we were talking earlier. Kendall Milton is going to be a special back. He's really going to be a special back. I don't know if he's a guy that has the breakaway speed, but he's big, he's nimble, and he reminds me of Najee Harris. Probably not with the moves, the way he runs, but a guy that can pound the ball inside, outside, and being able to catch the football. So I'm looking forward to seeing Kendall Milton in the future.
Let me give you a couple notes here to finish this one off, Terrence. You saw probably today Dell McGee, the Georgia running backs coach, wearing James Cook's jersey during the game. I thought that was such a nice touch by Coach McGee. Kyrus Jackson, according to what I'm being told here, other players actually called Cook on Instagram from the locker room. And then JT Daniels, let me give you this quote, Terrence. He says, James Cook's like a brother to me. He was one of the first people that hit me up when I came to Georgia. So you know what it's like to be in a locker room, Terrence, and you know the bond that gets formed there. I imagine these Georgia players were, you don't just miss James as a player. You feel for him and the reason that he's gone. That obviously hits close to home for me because of what I've dealt with over the course of the last couple of weeks. But it's not a surprise to me these Georgia players really, did everything they could to make James feel a part of this. And I'm certain that their thoughts and prayers, I'm sure James Cook just fills them up right now. And I'm not surprised to hear they raced to contact James and make him feel good, at least try to provide him some comfort after what has been a really tough week for him and his brother Dalvin Cook, the NFL running back for the Minnesota Vikings after the loss of their father, Mr. James Cook.
I think so. I just think football is the ultimate team game, and it's a brotherhood like no other. And once your brothers comes to a situation that's like James is facing right now, I mean, the best thing you can do and the most important thing to do once you're off that field that you're running to give him a call, let him celebrate with his brothers. And I know they played inspired for him today and trying to bring a victory to him, just to bring a smile to a bad situation right now. So kudos to those Georgia players keeping their brother in mind. And it was a honorable thing that Dale McGee wore his jersey for the game.
It's our final edition of the Dog Nation post-game show presented by the UGA bookstore here for this season. And I want to send out some thank yous before we're done. First of all, to our friends at the UGA bookstore for being our partners all year long, providing me a place to be in those home games in Athens, and also providing some great apparel for Georgia fans who want to look their best and support the Dogs while they do so. I'll invite you, even after our show is done today, to keep the UGA bookstore on your mind when you're ready to be decked out in red and black and look good doing so. Stop by and see them there in Athens, right next to the Tate Student Center, right across from Sanford Stadium. That entire first floor filled with the Nike and the Vineyard Vines, the Peter Millar, Southern Tide, so many of the great apparel makers who make good-looking UGA stuff. You will see that at the UGA bookstore. And if you can't get to Athens to see it for yourself, check them out online at ugabookstore.com. Huge thanks to the UGA bookstore for helping make this show possible all season long, allowing me to travel and be a part of these games, be on the road. I am grateful for their support of our show. And Terrence, I can't tell you how much I appreciate what you provided for the show. As one of our commenters said a moment ago, your insight as a former player, having been here, having done that, having worked with current players, you just bring an incredible backstory, history of knowledge of the game, and you have done a great job telling Georgia fans and me about all of that all year long. I always look forward to these conversations. Thanks for making this show so much fun to do all year long.
Thanks for having me. I'm really happy that you thought of me to come do this show with you. And it's a dream come true to sit down and talk about Georgia football, the football program that I love. It's near dear to my heart. As you can see, my Georgia helmet right there. It's an actual helmet that I played in. That's the actual one. That's an actual helmet that I played in my senior year. So, I'm very passionate about Georgia football. So I'm happy and thank you for inviting me. Hopefully next year we can do this in the stadium. I would love to be at the game and watch the game with you, and we'd be able to do it at the Tate bookstore next year. I definitely want to be on the road for Charlotte next year for the the Clemson Georgia game, because that's going to be a big contest. But thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to next season.
Yeah, I can't wait to next season myself too, Terrence. I think it's going to be even more fun next year, and a great job certainly by you all year long. And to our audience who tunes in, good times and bad, to vent frustrations or celebrate big wins like Georgia got a chance to do today, we are so thankful to all of you for allowing us to narrate this experience for you after each and every game. So thanks for tuning in, and certainly we are excited about, as Terrence said, what 2021 might have in store as we get ready to take a look at all of that in the months to come. So happy new year. Best wishes for a very happy year. I know for many people, a chance to turn the page from 2020 is a good thing. So hopefully all your hopes and dreams come true here in the new year. Certainly we got it started on a good note with a nice Georgia win over Cincinnati today. For Terrence Edwards, I'll say goodbye to all of you. We'll see you again here very soon on the Dog Nation postgame show presented by the UGA bookstore. But for now, goodbye here from Mercedes-Benz Stadium.